everyone, and welcome to the Lady Leadership Podcast. My name's Sam McIntyre, and today, as a guest on my show, I've got Leslie Carvitto. And Leslie is a photographer, but I absolutely love on her website that she says, yes, I'm a photographer, but I'm also an activator, an innate connector, and a space holder. And I will always encourage and empower you to pursue the path that makes your palms sweat and your heart beat uncomfortably fast. I just love that. Beautiful.
Thank you. Yep. As we were chatting a little bit before, I've always been a writer, and I've been writing way before I started photography. So I have journals and journals full of, well, what I hope are poetic words like that.
Yeah. And then you say, no matter where you are in your entrepreneurial journey, you need imagery that captures the essence of who you are and what you do, because you and your purposeful work matter, and it's time to share your gifts with the world. Beautiful. And do you know what? I looked at your website and you've just got beautiful photos, and you've captured other people beautifully as well. So yeah, it's gorgeous. Well
Thank you. Thank you so much.
But tell me then about your business, and also, just around the journey as well, because you didn't necessarily, well, none of us do, but we don't start out where we end up, do we? But so let's tell me a little bit. Tell me a bit about the journey, I think, first.
Yeah. So I am an expat. If you can't tell from my accent, I am not from Australia. I'm born and raised in California, but I've been living in Australia for about 4.5 years now. So currently living on Waterong Country, which is the Surf Coast in Victoria. And I'm a personal brand and lifestyle photographer. I work really closely with creatively fueled brands and really excited, passionate women in business. And I've also added motherhood to kind of my photography portfolio as I became a mom a little over a year ago. And so that's been a real shift in passion, I guess, is just capturing mamas in whatever season of motherhood that they're in. And often the brands and the women that are these small business owners and these solopreneurs, they're often working part-time in that job, or maybe they're full-time, but they're also full-time moms. So it all kind of blends in really nicely. But you're right, I didn't start here. So my journey has been very nonlinear, very back and forth, very confusing at times. I went to university in Hawaii and I studied PR and communications. So I did receive my degree in public relations and pretty quickly realized I didn't want to work in the corporate world. I didn't have an interest in being in an office 40 plus hours a week. I thought at the time it was because I lived in Hawaii and all I wanted to do was be outside and on the beach and surf. But that was definitely over a decade ago. And I can tell you that that wasn't actually the reason. The reason I wanted to work for myself was the freedom, the flexibility, and to really do work that aligned with what I felt was my purpose. So long story short, I did end up doing some corporate roles, and they were a really great learning experience. It was really good to get those skill sets because I took everything that I learned in corporate and was able to transition to working for myself. So the last job that I had was in marketing. I was an account manager. I've also done talent recruiting. So recruiting for big technology companies like Microsoft and Amazon and Boeing. So I've done a variety of jobs, but at the end of the day, I really kept getting that tap on the shoulder that said, this isn't it. You're meant to do something different. And if you don't do it now, you're going to regret it.
Yeah. And when you say tap, that's kind of like the universe showing up.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And what is that like? Let's just explore that, because I want to, right? And so just like, what does that look like for you? What did that look like? What was that tap that you felt?
It was that feeling of everything's fine. Like everything's okay. There's nothing, I can't really point to anything that's wrong necessarily, but just this like deep knowing that it's mediocre. And I felt like there was something more. There was something more aligned. There was something more exciting. I really feel like we're only on this earth for so long. I want to make sure that I'm doing something that lights me up, and I'm not just following the status quo. I'm not just clocking in and out. I mean, work is such a huge part of our time on the planet. Like if you think about the years in your life that you are going to work, I just couldn't imagine continuing doing work that I wasn't like passionate about, work that didn't fuel me, work that I didn't feel was like really utilizing all my gifts and all
Yeah.
my skills. And so that's kind of what that inner knowing felt like. It was waking up and being like, I'm not excited about going to work. Like, it's okay, but I'm not feeling fulfilled.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I really understand what you mean. And I probably didn't work it out quickly enough, right? I've had I've had a 30-year career in corporate, and originally I wanted to do work with horses. I wanted to be a horse wrangler, right? And even did work experience as a horse wrangler, but couldn't kind of connect the dots between that and work, or there wasn't people around me to show me that you could have a career in horses or that type of thing. So I ended up on a different path, right? And but now, what I know lights me up is having my business, Lady Leadership, and helping women in their careers, so helping, but also changing the system to help women be more successful in corporate as well. So like those two things, do you know what I mean? But that's taken, and also what I would say is, that kind of came to me quite a few years ago. Like, I realized in my roles that I'd had that the thing I enjoyed most was actually helping women in their careers and giving them a leg up and giving them a voice and that sort of thing. And then, that feeling hasn't gone away. Does that make sense? And it kind of keeps knocking on the door, like, no, you still need to do this. No, you still need to do this. And, hence why I've got this podcast, etc. So,
Yeah. And I think no matter how long it takes, or I think sometimes we can get to a place and then think, oh, I wish I would have figured that out sooner, or I wish I would have taken a different path or whatever. But I truly do believe that no experience is ever wasted, and that whatever you've done in the past, you just keep it in your toolkit and you build on from there.
That's exactly right. It's a build, isn't it? And because I'm a big believer on what is meant for you will not pass you by. And so, and it's, those experiences have then built to this. If I didn't do that, then I wouldn't have known about this.
Right.
And if I hadn't taken those steps, and I mean, believe it or not, I studied technology in the 90s. So, I mean, that's how old I am. And, and then created a technology career as a woman to then help women in technology and, for us to have a bigger voice. Now, you can't write that down. You can't be like, oh, well, this is what I want to do to get me to these
Right.
it just kind of evolves, doesn't it, really?
Yeah.
You've got to try things and then see, I think, what you really enjoy.
Yeah, it's important to know. It's important to know what you like, but I think it's equally important to know what you don't like. And like you said, you can only really figure that out by trial and error. And like one of my favorite quotes, it's from a coach back in the States, Marie Forleo, if you're familiar with her.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
But she always says clarity comes from engagement, not thought. And so I always feel, because I remember being stuck in the thought pattern of, do I quit my job and try freelancing? Do I, there's all the questions of what happens if, and then that quote hit me one day and I was like, okay, I can't actually think myself to this answer. I just have to do the thing. And whether or not it works out, it doesn't actually matter, but I just need to try it.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you've got to try. And then if that's not right, then go a different path, or you're not going to have any regrets then. You've tried that.
And it's better than staying stuck. Correct. Or unhappy with where you are.
Yeah. Now, I loved on your website that you actually had your values. And you said that your values are community, creative expression, authenticity, gratitude, and fun. Love it.
Yeah. I think that it's funny when I look back, I do think that those values have actually, they showed up even before I knew really what a value was, or sitting down to think about, oh, what is it that, like, what are my guiding values, I guess. So when I sat down to write them, they actually came pretty fluidly. And so, like, in terms of community is such a core value to me. And it's one of the things that, in terms of giving advice to people who are starting out in their journey, or, photographers who are just starting out, I always say to build a community, find your community, find the people who are going to lift you up when building a business feels really hard, because there will be challenges. And it's also why I started the Surf Coast Women in Business community out here where I live, because I was finding that I was connecting one-on-one with so many incredible women through photo shoots and through mentoring. And I wanted a space for us all to come together and to be together in real life, because this journey of being a business owner can be really lonely. And sometimes you're sitting behind your computer by yourself all day. You don't have any other interaction. And, part of it was selfish too. I wanted a place where I could go and connect with other women in real life and not
Yeah.
just do this by myself, because um, I also feel like your business can just like you can move through things a lot faster when you're with other people. So it's whether you're asking for feedback or asking for recommendations or putting yourself out there for a job and saying, hey, this is what I want to do. Does anyone need this service? Like, I really love the idea of just kind of circulating jobs, circulating money, circulating good energy, all of that into a community group, whether it's something specific or just, within your own community where you live. So, yeah.
Yeah, I really love that. And it's kind of like, well, if you can't find it, then create it as well. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Yeah.
absolutely. And I got so much feedback as soon as that group was created, of people saying, oh, I've been looking for something like this. I really needed this. Like, this town really needed this. It's
Yeah.
just sometimes you need to be the person to put your hand up and say, oh, okay, I guess that's my job
And
now. I'll do that.
give it a go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so how does that come together? What does that look like?
Yeah, so it's really casual right now because, as I mentioned, I'm a new mama and I've got my business. And then my co-founder has 3 kids and a full-time job. So essentially, we do what we can with the time that we have. And right now, we're really interested in creating more events. So again, getting women out of the house and in each other in real life, and doing more panel discussions, more Q&As. So getting more business owners to share their stories and to share their challenges, or celebrating their successes. So events is a big thing. And then I'm hoping in the future to do more workshops and education, because we have a variety of women who are either, just starting their business, maybe they're 2 or 3 years in their business. And then we have some real seasoned
Yeah.
gals who've been doing the thing for a decade and are just, things are rolling like clockwork. So I'm hoping to kind of match make some of the people who have been in business for longer, maybe with some of the new business owners, and just to help share knowledge, share experience, and kind of workshop ideas together.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. It's beautiful. And in a nice location too.
Oh, it's gorgeous down here. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereabouts are you?
So I'm in Genjak, which is just a little tiny neighborhood in Torquay.
Yeah, lovely. And home to Bells Beach.
Yes, it's a 7-minute drive, and I surf. So it's,
Oh, do you
yeah,
surf at Bells Beach?
I do. Yeah.
Wow.
Which people automatically think when I say it, surf at Bells, they think that means I'm a good surfer because they think of the Bells Beach Pro. I do not surf on days like that. That's not my style of surfing.
Did I hear this right? Because my kids are into surfing. Was it too big last Easter or something like that? Or was it not big? There was something about it.
It wasn't as big as it has been in the past,
Right.
but they
Okay.
still were able to run the event.
Okay.
And yeah.
I've been, when I was younger, when I was 18, I went down there to that event looking for surfers.
I mean, it's a great place to look for them.
Very good. So just let's talk about, that shift from corporate to kind of starting your own business, and maybe like what were some of the challenges, and both intrinsically and extrinsically as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, so your own mindset, and then, I've started my own business. Like,
Yeah, definitely you hit the nail. I think mindset was probably the biggest challenge I faced, and I still have challenges with mindset. You have to work on it all the time. But one of the cool things about the community that I was in when I quit this job was I was in a community of very creative people who were already working for themselves. So in that sense, I had these expanders around me showing me that I could also do that I could run a successful creative business, I could freelance. I could choose my jobs, things like that. So that was really inspiring. But on the flip side of that, a lot of them were photographers already and videographers, and they had been in their careers for a while and they were very good. And so while they were inspiring, I was also constantly comparing myself because I was at the beginning of my journey. And so I was looking at all these people outside of me thinking, how am I ever going to get to that level? Like, how am I ever going to get the clients that they're getting? Yeah, comparison was a really tough challenge for me to move past. Um, and then also just the idea of, when you work for someone else, you show up to work every 2 weeks, you get your paycheck, the work is handed to you, you show up, there it is, you do the
Yeah.
work, you go home. And now all of a sudden, like I had no foundation as to how to build a business. I
Yeah.
didn't go to business school. I had the ideas of what I thought I wanted to do, but I had no idea in terms of how do I price this? Where do I find the clients? Like, all your basic questions.
Yeah, it's also like when you're working for someone else, you're motivated by that rhythm and routine of that organization, and certain things that happen on certain days, and that fact that you do turn up 9 to 5 or whatever it might be. Whereas when you're in your own business, you've got so much more freedom. If you want to sit in your pajamas all day on Monday and do nothing, you can. And so it's like, how did you work through the kind of like, what are my rules or my boundaries, or how do I show up, or what do I do, or what's my schedule
Yeah.
like?
Thankfully, because I've played athletics my whole life, and I feel like that has really given me a strong foundation for staying motivated
Yeah.
and being goal oriented and the schedule and all of that. And
Kind of
so,
the consistency thing, like,
yeah,
if I don't show up, it's not going to happen, kind of. Yeah.
right, right.
Yeah.
So
You don't
that
get
was
to be an athlete by sitting on the couch.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that was definitely helpful. Um, but I think it's like what I kind of started to do was, now looking back, I actually kind of took a bit of pressure off myself by, I said I'd give myself a year to kind of try the things.
Yeah.
And I think I looked at it more in a sense of like, obviously I need to make money, but also I'm just going to put myself out there for the things that I'm feeling curious about. And so that ended up being like me taking free classes where I could find them. I started mentoring and assisting other photographers. So I was finding work, and I was finding, I went on Skillshare and I started taking classes on Skillshare. And that was kind of filling my day in between finding freelance work.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Um,
So you kind of kept yourself busy, but
Definitely.
not too busy that you then didn't have any time for the business as well, because everyone can be busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. That's good. But it doesn't sound like you overthought it either.
Yeah, I think I was just really excited, and maybe it goes
Yeah,
back
that's nice.
to my value of fun and just
Yeah.
wanting to have fun with what I was doing. And I I definitely define myself as a multi-passionate creative. And so again, trying out different things and just having the freedom and the ability to lean into that curiosity, giving myself that timeline of, we'll give it a year and see what happens. Because
Yeah.
the worst thing that could happen was that I wasn't making enough money, or I actually wasn't finding it fun, and I didn't want to own a business.
Yeah.
And then I would go apply for a job
Yeah,
somewhere, you know?
exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, it's like worst case scenario. I'm back
I'm
in.
back where I started.
No, I really like that. It's that, but you'd obviously set yourself up financially as well, that you had that ability to then go and explore.
Yeah, well, and also, I mean, and to be completely transparent, like I am still married to the guy I was married with before. So we had a dual income for a while. We were renting, so we didn't have a mortgage. We didn't have kids. We lived below our means. And so we were putting money in savings.
Yeah,
And so that was another reason why I was kind of feeling, I guess, maybe a pressure of, if I don't do this now, there's a good chance that later down the line, when we do decide to have a kid, or, things change, like I might not have this freedom to do it again. So like, let's take it now while it's here
yeah.
and see what happens.
So you had that runway, and I think this is good for the listeners as well, right? you know, or you can create that runway, right? So yeah, it's kind of, but it's also, I think, you know, the universe is a big player in this, right? And that the universe was pulling you in that direction, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. And so did you started the business then in Seattle, is that right? And then you moved to Melbourne, or did you, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Was
and
that
I
a
would
was that a
say,
restart then, or?
yeah, and the business has completely changed. I don't even know if I would have called myself a business owner when I was in Seattle. Like what I was doing, I mean, yeah, I mean, it was a business, but really I felt like I called myself a freelancer, because I was freelancing for a lot of different
Yeah.
companies. And so that was a little bit of photography, but to be honest, it was mostly my assisting roles with the other photographers that I was working for. And then because I had this background in marketing, I started taking on freelance projects for female creatives, really like small business owners. Maybe it was just them, maybe they had a team of one or two. And so I was pretty much tasked with doing either anything that they didn't want to do or anything that they didn't know how to do.
Yeah.
So one, I guess, trait that's really served me well in business is that I'm very okay with saying, actually, I don't know how to do that thing, but if you trust me, I will figure it out.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I know I can figure it out, but I'm not sure how to get there yet. So if you want to give me some time, I can figure it out. And I was working with a lot of business owners that were happy to give me that freedom to figure it out and then charge them to do the work. And so I was updating websites, I was doing back-end CRM stuff, I was doing copywriting, newsletters, social media scheduling, you name it, I've probably done it.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's really, I think, where I found my passion for working with other women business owners and helping them build their brand. And so that's what I was doing in Seattle. And when we moved to Melbourne, I kind of realized that my favorite thing out of all the things I was doing was photography. And I really wanted to make that my sole thing. I was kind of ready to let go of all of the little jobs, the back end stuff. But it took a couple years because I couldn't just drop
Yeah.
all of my clients. I didn't have any photography clients out here. I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
was kind of, I had to start over again and I had to rebuild a foundation and get in with community groups and go to events. And I'm also very okay with, sliding into somebody's DM that I think is cool and just asking if they want to meet for coffee. And
Yeah, right. Good. I mean, that's good advice for anyone listening, really.
oh, I
Yeah.
did it all the
Yeah.
time. And I'll say that I think 95% of people actually commented back and we've met up for coffee and are now,
Friends.
friends.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like, well, you won't know unless you ask, really.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And you never know who, like you might meet one, and this actually happened to me. I met somebody in Melbourne and she hired me for a job. I've also done modeling. So she hired me actually as a model for her company. And through that one day on set with her, she hired me to help her with her copywriting, her social media, her website design. And so all of a sudden, I had a client who was also a great friend, and she was so well connected. She, kind of sent me off to her friends to help with their
Yeah.
businesses. And so you never know when one person can actually be kind of a gateway to a lot more.
Love it. Saying yes to opportunity.
Yeah. Mm.
What advice then? And so, I mean, I think you probably just said it all. I was about to ask what advice you've got as a mentor for other creatives, what advice you've got for someone who's starting out. And it sounds to me like, getting out there, meeting people, talking to people, finding out what you like, all
Yeah.
that.
And getting back to the community aspect too, I think too, because people have such interesting relationships with social media these days and, not being seen or following trends or being on social media, not feeling good. Some people are
Yeah.
just like, being on social media doesn't feel good anymore. And I'm all about going like, let's go back to the basics of connecting with people, and social media can be a great tool, but like, I'm feeling really pulled like in the last couple months to just get out again in the community and meet people face to face, because it's such a different energy when you're in the room with somebody, when you're looking at them in the eyes. Like the conversation can get so much richer and deeper quicker than a scroll and, just moving on, I think,
And
yeah,
an opinion that might not be right either. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think definitely my advice would be like, get out there, like get involved in the community. Like you said, actually say yes. Like
Yeah.
say yes to opportunities that feel aligned. Obviously, if it's like
Yeah.
an opportunity comes up and it doesn't feel good in your body, like then yeah, don't do it. But if it does feel good, even though it might feel scary, do that as well. And I would actually say to put yourself up for jobs or projects that you might not feel totally qualified for. I think I ran into this a lot when I was starting with photography. I had imposter syndrome. I didn't feel ready to take on certain things. I look back and wish I would have had a little bit more faith and just put my name in the hat for things,
Mm.
instead of holding back so much. So I think that we tend to be our own worst critic. And a lot of times it takes somebody else telling us, no, like you actually, like you're doing really well. You're really talented. You've got an eye for this, whatever it is, to kind of give us that confidence. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And
so I would,
sometimes we're shocked by that and we're like, oh, really? Oh, do you think so? Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? Yeah. Like I do that as well. It's like my husband will say something and I'll be like, really? Oh, okay. Thank you. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, be a bit more kind of brazen. Like,
Mhm.
I've got a saying, which is don't say no to yourself.
Yeah,
Let someone else say no to you.
right. Like don't stop yourself before you've
Yeah.
even gotten started.
Yeah. Don't like, what are the blockers that you're putting in front of yourself? Like,
Mm,
don't put them in front of yourself. Let other people say no.
right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that.
Very good. What's next for the business then? I mean, your website is absolutely beautiful.
Thank
I
you.
really do. I love all the aesthetic, and I think it, having chatting to you now, I think it really reflects you as well. And
Oh,
yeah,
that's good feedback. Thank you. What's next for my business? Well, my husband and I, and my 14-month-old, we might be doing some traveling. So we're starting to explore what going around Australia could look like. And so I have it in my mind that we're going to start traveling, and everywhere I land, I'm going to fall into a community of bold, badass women, and I'm going to take their photos. And so essentially, I want to go almost like if I was a musician going on tour, I want to be a photographer going on tour.
that is so good. I love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is
So
great.
that's what I'm currently manifesting, is just
Yeah,
being able to go around Australia and connect with wonderful women and take their photos and remind them that they're creative geniuses.
beautiful. And when do you think you'll be kicking that off?
Well, it all depends, but it could be as early as September.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we'll
Nice.
see.
Good for summer.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think for the listeners then, best way to get in touch with you, and, particularly when you're going on tour, and so you're going to be in lots of different parts of Australia. So we have listeners from all around Australia on this podcast.
Yeah. Oh, so best way to get in touch with
Yeah.
me, you can go to my website, so lesliecarvitto.com, and I am on Instagram, so lesliecarvitto.photography. Yeah, I'm mostly active on Instagram. I feel like people have been telling me I need to be on TikTok, and I'm like, no, I have enough social media. I don't need to be on
You
another.
haven't made this shift yet.
I haven't, no.
That's okay. Like, I think, it goes around in circles, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah.
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 And there's only so much social media I think you can do
Uh,
as well
yeah.
before
Otherwise, it
jobs.
becomes a full-time job.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. So lovely catching up with you, Leslie. And then the Surf Coast Women, for anyone down the Surf Coast who wants to get in touch with that group, what's the best way for them to find out about that group?
Yeah, pop onto my website and just send me a note through the contact form, and I'll send you the link, and invite you to be a part of the group.
Nice. Good
Yeah.
stuff. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Absolutely loved having you. So much good stuff for women in all of that. And yeah, love it. I think I want to talk to you about getting some photos for myself.
Oh, yes. Well, thank you for having me. It's always an honor and a privilege to be able to share, my story. So yeah, thanks for taking the time.
Beautiful.